Good afternoon, everyone. Today is June 11th, 2024. It's 3 p.m. and this is a Prescott City Council voting meeting. Appreciate all of you coming to attend our meeting and have a chance to listen or even comment on some of our deliberations. So we'll start with introductions or announcements. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few announcements today. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Stage 1 fire restrictions that were put back into place last week. So the Prescott Fire Department and the Central Arizona Fire and Medical Authority are joining with... I'm sorry, that's the same ring as my phone. I'm sorry, somebody's got a phone there. Let's start back over here. So the restrictions are in effect until we have received enough rain to justify lifting the restrictions. As part of the Stage 1 fire restrictions, please understand that no residential burn permits will be issued. Use of model rockets is prohibited, and that is in big, bold letters. Use of fireworks and other pyrotechnic displays are prohibited except upon approval of a pyrotechnics permit. No smoking outside of vehicles, outside of residential yards, or outside of designated smoking areas is allowed. No outdoor use of firearms. Cooking, warming, or campfires are allowed at single and multifamily residential properties and town parks where approved, but must be attended at all times. These restrictions help keep our communities safe, and we ask for your cooperation and adherence. One last announcement. The City of Prescott will have a reduced summer schedule during the months of July and August. There will be one meeting each month, with a meeting on July 9th and a meeting on August 13. Council will resume the normal cycle of meetings twice a month starting in September. All other city operations will continue as scheduled. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We'll now have an invocation from Pastor Matt Kottman from the Solid Rock Christian Fellowship, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Montoya.
Will you join me in prayer? Gracious Father, we thank you for our town. We thank you for government. It is a gift of yours for our flourishing. It is a gift of yours for our safety. And so, Father, we would ask that you would grant wisdom to our government leaders as they lead and direct for those purposes, our safety and our flourishing. Give them insight to see with clarity the decisions that are in front of them to make wise and good choices. And Father, we ask that you would bring your blessing on our town. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Matt. We'll now have a roll call, please.
Mayor Good.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantelmi.
Here.
Councilwoman Fruworth.
Here.
Councilman Gambogi.
I'm here.
Councilman Montoya.
I'm still here.
Councilmember Rusing.
Here.
And the record will reflect that Councilman Moore is excused from the meeting.
We'll now move on to the official swearing in of our new city manager, Dallin Kimball. Will you please join me in front of the podium? Stand in front of the podium. Here we go. Well, congratulations, Mr. Kimball. If you'll raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Dallin Kimball,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona
of the state of Arizona
and the Prescott City Charter,
and the Prescott City Charter,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic.
and that I will faithfully
And I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties of
discharge the duties of
city manager
city manager
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. As Dallin and the mayor make their way back up, I'll go ahead and introduce our next item, which is a presentation of a proclamation for PTSD Awareness Month, June 2024, and Mayor Pro Tem will be handling that.
Do we have anybody here to represent? Come on up. Come on up. What's your name? Jennifer. Thanks for attending. PTSD is something that is near and dear to my heart. I had a career military father, military 22 years in the Air Force and 4 in the Navy, suffered from PSD after Vietnam. So we had to live with that for quite a long time, and it's devastating in some ways. Let's see. Whereas post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, can occur after a person experiences trauma, including but not limited to the stress of combat, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, bombings, accidents, and natural disasters, and this affects approximately 8 million adults in the United States annually. Whereas PTSD is associated with chemical changes in the body's hormonal system and anatomic nervous system, and is characterized by symptoms including flashbacks, nightmares, insomnia, avoidance, hypervigilance, anxiety, and depression. And whereas the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces who proudly serve the nation and risk their lives to protect our freedom deserve the investment of every possible resource to ensure their lasting physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And whereas combat-related PTSD, stress among our men and women in the armed forces, is significantly pronounced, given that they are often exposed to highly traumatic events for weeks, months, and even years. And whereas between 10 and 30% of service members will develop PTSD within a year of leaving combat, while others may not develop symptoms until years later. And whereas despite its treatability, many cases of PTSD remain undiagnosed and untreated due to a lack of awareness of this condition and the persistent stigma associated with mental health conditions. And whereas raising awareness of this condition is necessary to remove the stigma and to encourage those suffering to seek proper and timely treatment that may save their lives. And whereas all citizens suffering from PTSD deserve our consideration, and those who are affected by PTSD from wounds received while protecting our freedom deserve our respect and special honor. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Prescott does hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 as Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Month to bring awareness to those with PTSD and to encourage people to reach out to their fellow citizens to provide support and remove the stigma associated with this disorder. Thank you.
Thank Thank you. So my name is Dr. Jennifer Sigler, and I am a clinical psychologist and the program manager for a PTSD clinical team at the local VA here in Prescott. So I just wanted to thank you and thank the whole council for the support. Every June, our team really tries to surround our veterans with a community of support and understanding, also to reduce stigma, to try to reduce any barriers that might be impacting them from coming to care, and then most importantly, to let any veterans out there know that although their symptoms may be a big challenge in their life, it's something that can be managed and even overcome with the right support and resources. So all of you here today and the city of Prescott are helping us make that happen. So I just want to say thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the open call to the public. City Clerk, would you read the conditions for that,
Thank you, Mayor.
please?
The City of Prescott welcomes public engagement. Residents may comment and address the council regarding matters that are not included on the posted agenda during the call to the public. If you wish to speak, please complete a green speaker card and submit it to me prior to the meeting being convened. As a reminder, speakers are limited to 4 minutes, and the call to the public will be limited to 40 minutes in total, with the following stipulations. Citizens will be limited to addressing the council on the same topic only 4 times in total. If a topic has been addressed more than 5 times by different speakers, the mayor may limit future discussion on this topic, and topics of a primarily national concern may be limited at the discretion of the mayor. And I was going to say I don't have any, but now I do. Ralph Rodarty.
My name is Ralph Rodarty. I live at 251 South Mount Vernon. And the reason I'm here is I've tried to make contact with different officials on our street. And I have brought up the issue that, do you want a lot of us, or do you just want somebody to represent the street? And they say one is better than all, everybody with different ideas. We have problems with many things over there. One is stop signs. They're running them. They're doing California stops, and somebody's going to get hurt. We already had a lady on the 100 block that is really sick yet that got hit, and she's struggling with her living life that she has left over. We also had another one street over that got killed. People coming down up from that hill is coming at large speeds. I have found out that there is some speed bumps that are going to be applied up above to sort of slow them down. But the biggest one is the big trucks. And here I'm talking about, I work for a company that has big trucks. But the big trucks are coming down. They're not stopping either. And they're fully loaded with either rock, dirt, and the ones hauling up the street, they don't want to stop either because they don't want to shift gears. And all I want is from the city, because I've tried everybody under the sun. I tried the police department, I tried everybody. All I want is have somebody sit on my front porch, because I'm right where Carlton would go through, and watch what happens there so that they can relate it to you guys, because who am I? I'm just a citizen that lives there. I've lived there since 1965, and it's never been that way. Of course, it's a bigger city, but that highway has become a highway. It's not a street. It's got the name of South Mount Vernon, but nobody understands that it's residential. So all I ask you guys is get somebody that can sit there either on my driveway and just monitor traffic. They're welcome to do it. By the way, my driveway belongs to the city, part of it. But anyway, so that's all I ask is get somebody up there so that what I'm telling you right now, they can tell you. And the other thing is half of those trucks, or more than half, are overweight. You know what that's doing to our road? Go look at it. The top layer of our road that was just constructed in 2014 and 15, the top layer's disappearing. You can see it as you're driving up. And I mean, that costs a lot of money for us, the taxpayers. So in keeping that in mind, I would really appreciate you guys assigning somebody or talking that over. because it's getting to be a real mess. And by the way, if somebody gets hurt, I will be the first one to say, I brought it up to you guys. So that's all I have to say. Any questions from you?
Well, we aren't allowed to discuss your concerns on a call to the public, but I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and I'm sure our city manager will be discussing this with the appropriate traffic enforcement agency and officers.
Thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
Very good. We'll proceed to our consent agenda. Does anyone on the council want to pull anything from consent?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to pull item 9B as in boy.
All right, Council Member Rusing will pull item 9B, and any other concerns? Then I'll entertain a motion for the remaining items on consent.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve a consent agenda A through H, excluding item B.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Rusing and Councilwoman Freeworth.
Oh,
Both buttons.
Okay.
did.
If you just want to verbally let me know, that will work. Yes?
Oh, well, you'll have to,
Councilmember
yes.
Rusing, yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
Councilmember Rusing, item 9B.
thank you. The reason why I pulled this item is it's about our water infrastructure. And as you know, we've had a lot of discussion about having to increase our water rates to cover future costs of our infrastructure replacement and repair. And this is just an example. This Zone 41 Mingus pump station and tank is, as you're driving up Willow Creek Road, you'll just past Rosser. It's up on the hill with all the radio cell tower antennas. And this was built in the 1940s, okay? So it's approximately 80 years old, and it's an $11 million project. So I just would like staff to give us some details as to what this project involves, and that it's actually, when we have to raise your water rates, the money is reinvested back into our water infrastructure system. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Steve Wolfers, Utilities Manager. I come before you asking for this approval for a loan. As you said, Councilwoman Rusing, this is one of our oldest system sites, and it's out there on the Mingus Mountain over there in that Mingus area. This loan would allow us to get our process started on this. As you said, this is a 1940s system. We will replace the entire pump station. There's 2 tanks up there now that will become 1, and then there'll be pipeline adjustments and other types of upgrades that will allow us to keep that system running for quite a while. This is the first stop on water when it's coming in from Chino Valley. So this is where we start distributing to all the other zones within the city. So this is a crucial piece of infrastructure. We've been working with the different vendors to do phasing, because this cannot go out of service while it's being built. So there's a lot of different intricacies to this money, but this would be $11 million loan from WIFA with a 30% payoff or 30-year payoff. And we talked about this during our rate study. This is our first foray into getting money to start all those different projects that we listed for you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to emphasize that currently the tanks we've got 2 tanks, and they're 200,000 gallon tanks each. So we have a total of 400,000, and they're going to be upsized for future capacity and current capacity, because I have a feeling they're undersized, to 750 750,000 gallons.
I believe it'll be a single 750,000
Single
gallons.
750,000 gallons. So this is a necessary improvement that we need to do, because if this critical infrastructure goes down, we're also putting in a new pump station. And if this goes down, it's going to affect the city as a whole. So thank you very much for getting this on your work schedule. And like I said, I just wanted to emphasize this is an example of your water rates being put to good use. And I think it's a good bargain, because my rates are going to go up $1 a month. So I think I'm getting a pretty good return on my money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? In that case, I'll entertain a motion on 9B.
Mayor, I move that we approve item 9B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Boy, that worked good that time. Okay, we'll move on to item 10A.
Public hearing and consideration for an acquisition of control, Series 6 bar liquor license application from Amy S. Nations, applicant for Whiskey River Tavern, location 214 South Montezuma Street. The application fee has been paid and the sign has been posted for the required 20 days. Staff has reviewed the application and determined that it is in compliance, and no public comments have been received. And the applicant is not present.
Well, I understand this is just simply a change of ownership. Is that right?
Correct. Amy Nation serves as an agent for a number of local businesses on their liquor licenses, so that the business owners themselves don't have to handle all of the applications and fees and things of that nature. So the business owner is transferring control of the license to her.
Mayor?
Very well. I'll entertain a motion on 10A.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
And for number 2?
Yeah.
I move to approve recommendation for liquor license number 294157 for an acquisition of Control Series 6 bar liquor license application for Whiskey River Tavern, location 214 South Montezuma Street.
I happily second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Mayor, UAS on this one?
I pushed it,
Here we go.
so you can take my verbal yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
All right, we'll move on to item 10B.
Public hearing and consideration for an owner transfer Series 6 bar liquor license application from Amy S. Nations, applicant for JJ's, location 444 West Goodwin Street. The application fee has been paid and the sign has been posted for the required 20 days. Staff has reviewed the application and determined that it is in compliance, and no public comments have been received. And this is the same scenario as our previous application.
Do we have an applicant here? Probably not. Oh,
No.
you want to step up and tell us about your plans as the new owner? JJ's been around a long time.
So many stories I've heard the past month since we took over. My name's Matt Teague. My wife, Tiffany, and I just bought
If you
the
could
place.
move the microphone closer.
Is that
to
better?
you. Thank you.
It's my first time here. Sorry. Anyways, my name's Matt Teague. My wife Tiffany and I bought the place about a month ago on the 8th, actually. JJ's has a long history as the hut and Donna's hut and all those things. We're well aware that it also has a long history of, not being the greatest place ever, but we've already made some changes. We've set the tone really early that, we're not putting up with any, debauchery going on. We're not going to put up with any of that stuff anymore. We're just looking forward to being more of a part of this community, and we love it here. We loved it here from the time we got here 3.5 years ago, and I've been trying to look for something to get into, and JJ's came up, and here we are.
Well, that's great. We wish you a great success there. And like I said, JJ's has been around a long time. I wasn't really aware of that much debauchery going on, but
Oh, it goes on.
we wish you good luck and congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to Prescott. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Mayor, I move to approve liquor license number 294514 for an owner transfer Series 6 bar liquor license application for JJ's, location 444 West Goodwin Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Passes 6-0.
Again, good luck, Matt. Okay, we'll move on to the regular agenda. We'll start with item 11A.
Discussion and action regarding appointment of replacement members to the General Plan Review Committee. Mayor and Council, we don't have a real presentation for you on this item. As the memo states, we did have a member of the General Plan Committee resign from the committee. The last time that happened, the process that we followed was to have the member of council whose selection it was resign, appoint a new member. And there was a bit of discussion at that time on coming up with a plan for any future replacements to this committee. It does function slightly differently than any of our other standing committees in that it is a temporary committee because it is only in existence during the general plan review time. There were 7 members on the committee that were selected by each member of council at that time. There are also 2 members from the Planning and Zoning Commission, 1 member from the Board of Adjustment, and 1 member from the Prescott Preservation Commission. The member that resigned was selected by Councilman Moore. He did give me an option for an individual to replace this person if that is the direction that the council chooses to go in. However, staff's recommendation at this time is to leave the seat vacant. As you're all aware, the General Plan Committee is well into their review process and only have a couple more meetings during which they'll be providing feedback to staff, and we do have some ComDev staff present to address this. To try to get someone up to speed at this point in time, staff feels would be rather counterproductive given the short nature that the committee will still be in existence for. But we did provide you with 3 possible options for addressing this vacancy. That would be to either go with staff's recommendation and leave the seat vacant, appoint as our last process, which would be to select and approve member recommended by Councilman Moore, or to appoint through our regular board and commission appointment process, which would be to open up a recruitment and then have the council subcommittee on appointments review applications and then make a recommendation to the council. I know that Chelsea and I think Tammy are here in case you have any other questions, but that is all I have for you at the moment, unless there's other questions that I can answer.
Well, from the background here, we know that the committee was formed in July of 2022. So this committee has been meeting for nearly 2 years already. And when's their deadline for submission of their draft General Plan Committee report for the election?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Chelsea Walton, Community Development Director. So the committee has one more meeting at the end of June to look at the draft element, a singular draft element. And then in the month of July, they'll be looking at, over 2 meetings, the entire document in draft form. After that occurs in sometime mid-August, the 60-day public comment period will be triggered. And that's when, after that period, the Planning and Zoning Commission will look at it. So the bulk of the review work that the commission or committee will be doing will happen over the next 3 meetings. Beyond that, the committee will be tasked with championing the plan in the community and helping, but the bulk of their work for the draft of the plan is being done in short order.
So in essence, we're really coming to the end of the line of this committee's deliberations and recommendations and design of the general plan
Yes, sir.
over the next month and a half, really, right?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Roosing?
Thank you. I spoke with several members of the General Plan Committee and got some input, and also spoke with the applicant, J.D. Greenberg. And I respectfully disagree that this committee, the General Plan Committee, still has a lot of work to do, and that I would like to take the vacancy option, leaving the vacancy open. We need to put someone back on because they have several more meetings. Then they have to review all the public input. Then they have to go on do the road show with the public. They still have a lot more work to do. So this is a once in a 10-year thing, and it would look reflect poorly upon us as the elected officials to leave this open without appointing a replacement. Thank you.
Councilwoman Furworth?
I am the liaison to the committee, and I do believe, watching them, not as long as Ted has been a part of that, but watching them is the departure leaves it's really important to have all the unique perspectives at the table, and Gary's departure has left a void. And I do believe that the person being recommended by Councilman Moore does fulfill that. I understand the concerns about, we don't have time to move backwards, but she's made 80 to 95% of the meetings. So I don't think she'd be moving backwards. We'd be happy to have that discussion with her that we move forward only at this point, and she would get up to speed immediately. So I'm with Councilwoman Roosing. I believe it is important that we fill this slot today.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Was I next? Okay. I may have said this a few times in other council meetings about new appointees for different committees, and I recounted the fact that when I first became interested in becoming involved in the city, it took me several years to get a seat at the table. And I do believe that the community has a right to be at the table, and not all the same people all the time. I think it's very good to have a fresh perspective. And I wasn't clear. I'm not sure if J.D. Greenberg is that the suggestion from Councilman Moore?
Yes, that was Councilman Moore's recommendation, would be to replace with J.D. Greenberg.
Yeah, and I've actually seen J.D. attend these meetings and more. She's been very diligent. I'd like to give her an opportunity too, moving forward, and recognizing, J.D., that this is towards the end of the committees and what they're about or tasked to do. But I think you'd be a lot of help when going out to the community because you really are dialed in with the community. So I would support that also. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council Member Roosing has some additional comments.
Yeah. One of the reasons why this is on the agenda is we've had Councilman Moore just happen to nominate people that didn't finish their term. So he's had 2 chances, and Mr. Montoya has had 2, and we have 3 sitting council members here, including our liaison, who hasn't had a chance so to nominate anybody. And so I feel that option 3 is also not an option because they're nominated by a subcommittee, which could have the same council members on that subcommittee. So I think moving forward, our goal is to give everyone, each elected official, a chance to nominate someone to future committees. And I think we need a policy, a 2-pronged policy, so that each council member only gets 1 shot. And if something happens to your nominee, then it moves on to the next person who hasn't had a chance. And also, we need to also address in this policy the fact of members who very sporadically attend this very important committee, or when they do attend, they don't participate. So that's another thing that I would like to make a motion that we develop a policy to address these 2 issues.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Marusing, but that's not part of this discussion.
And I should say, I'm sorry, I was remiss in saying that part of the second option on the recommendations is to select replacement members for council members that are no longer on council. So, for example, Mayor Pro Tem was appointed to replace Councilwoman Hall. And obviously Councilman Sishka, who selected a member, and Councilman Tenney, who selected a member, are no longer on the council. So part of your motion could be to state that if the representative that was appointed by one of those 3 council members were to resign, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Gambogi, and Councilwoman Fruworth would then have an opportunity to select a replacement individual that would be approved by all of you. And I also want to clarify that this is the only committee where individual council members get to make a selection. The normal process for appointments to our boards and commissions is that citizens that are interested apply. The council subcommittee on appointments reviews those applications, and then recommendations are made to all of you and approved for appointments to all of the other boards and commissions.
What about the charter committee? We made appointments to the charter committee.
The charter committee is a mayoral ad hoc, and the mayor gets to select who's on the mayoral ad hocs.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. We're here to vote on the item in front of us.
Correct. That's correct. Councilman Montoya.
Thanks, Mayor. To bring it back to the kind of decision in front of us, I understand staff's perspective on getting someone up to speed, and I'm sensitive to that reality. I do know that JD has been at almost all the meetings. And part of the reason I know that was because when I had the last opportunity to appoint someone to this committee to replace my member, I was deciding between that individual and JD, and it was just kind of a very close call for me to decide to go with the person I went with instead of JD. And I think that she's up to speed. And I also think that the part of the work that's in front of this committee, JD is uniquely capable of doing as well, because it is using your centers of influence as a member of that committee to get out into the community and have people help them understand the importance of the message. So I personally would, if Councilman Moore didn't have someone in mind, or if he hadn't had this particular person in mind, in my opinion, I could see the wisdom of just letting this go. But in this case, I'm pretty compelled by what I understand JD to bring to the table.
Councilwoman Fruworth.
I retracted in the spirit of moving.
Request. Well, I think my primary concern was allowing someone to step in at this very late date and trying to get them caught up to speed. But I also know JD very well, and I know that she's attended virtually every previous meeting as an observer or a commenter. So I have a feeling that she's pretty well caught up to speed. And I know she's been involved in several other significant commissions and committees. So I think she would do a pretty good job of advocating for the general plan's final draft in the community that she spends a lot of time with. So I think this is kind of a different type of an appointment rather than someone who would be stepping in and having to spend a lot of time getting briefed. So with that said, I'll entertain a motion on one of the three options.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mayor. We do have a couple of public comment cards on this one. Ralph Hess.
I apologize. Public comment, Mr. Hess.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Ralph Hess, resident of Prescott and member of the General Plan Committee. I haven't spoken with any of the council members. Based on the consensus that I'm hearing today, I'll be very brief. When I read the agenda memo today, or the other day, I recognized that we're going to have more than 2 meetings that's referenced in the memo. And you heard that from Ms. Walton. And I reached out to Ms. Tammy DeWitt, who is part of the planning team for our committee, and she emailed me that we will have more meetings after July to go over public comment and then get ready for the ballot information and to answer questions that come from the public. So it's going to be there's still going to be a lot of activity among the committee members. And as has been noted by council members, J.D. Greenberg has been at almost all of the meetings. And she has the knowledge to answer the questions and to provide information that's going to be coming out of this public comment period. So I support the consensus of what I've heard from council members. Thank you.
Bonnie McMinn.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity. I too will be very brief, but given the 3 options that you have before you, I think the option of keeping the seat open is not an option for the community, because when we look at the makeup of the General Plan Committee, there are a number of members who are part of other boards, commissions, and committees. And they bring a unique perspective. But the citizen portion, of which Mr. Wareb is representative, Mr. Moyer is representative, and Mr. Carmen is representative, they're the only true civilians, if you will, that are not associated with another plan, commission board or committee. And I think that is vitally important to have that reach out from the community. And as has been acknowledged, there's a number of more meetings, and we've got an individual in the community who will do fabulous reach out for us all. And I respect that, and I certainly respect the ability for us to have this conversation. Thank you very much. And I support J.D. Greenberg. Thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
Okay, considering our deliberations and recommendations, I'll entertain a motion on one of these 3 options.
Mayor, I move that we approve option number 2 to appoint based on previous process and indicate new council members to appoint for specific past council members. And do I need to make another motion to appoint J.D. Greenberg?
You can do it all in one motion if you'd like. The motion can be to appoint Ms. Greenberg as recommended, and then I would ask that you specify. So I think for simplicity's sake, we could say that Mayor Pro Tem would make selections for former Councilwoman Hall. Councilman Gambogi could make recommendations for former Councilman Sishka, and Councilwoman Freeworth could make recommendations for former Councilman Tenney, if you all are comfortable with that.
Okay. All right. Well, let me start over again. I move to approve item 2 appoint based on previous process and indicate new council members to appoint for specific past council members. And therefore, I move that we appoint citizen J.D. Greenberg to the General Plan Committee, and that Councilwoman Connie Cantelmi appoint for Jessica Hall, and that Councilwoman Lois Fruworth appoint for Clark Tenney, and that Councilman Gambogi appoint for past council member Steve Shishka. Thank you.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilman Montoya and Councilman Gambogi.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Passes 6-0.
Congratulations, JD. Would you like to come up and make a comment or two? Or maybe just one?
I do want to thank all of you, and I want to assure you that I am appreciative of the contributions that Gary Warb made to the General Plan Committee, and I align with him in so many ways because we've worked on projects together for over 10 years, and I am sure that I'll be able to continue in the effort that he cares about, because I care about it deeply myself. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, JD, and good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to item 11B.
We are. Adoption of resolution number 2024-1884, accepting an Arizona Department of Housing grant for State Housing Trust Fund in the amount of $200,000. I was advised by our staff prior to the meeting convening that there's been an issue with a state contract on this item, and we will need to postpone discussion to a future meeting. At this time, I don't have a date certain, but we will keep council updated on any future action on this item, so we will just pull it from the agenda and not discuss it this time.
Thank you very much, and I think that's quite appropriate. So we'll move on to item 11C.
Adoption of resolution number 2024-1887, adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2025, setting the public hearing for the final budget, expenditure limitation, and tax levy for the city of Prescott.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. As the clerk mentioned, we're adopting the tentative budget today. That's the first official step council will take in the steps to follow to officially adopt our budget for next year. With the tentative, the council sets its maximum for the expenditures for next year. It can be reduced to the final, but today that would be the maximum. It also sets in motion a few things, as we will publish in the newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks with the summary of the budget, announcing the public hearing, which will be in 2 weeks on June 25th. I have a very brief presentation today. First, I just wanted to remind the council and the public of the hard work that everyone has done to get to this point. Thank you to all the staff and also council for all the time spent on preparing this budget. It started with the strategic planning meetings in February. From there, staff was able to take direction and put together proposals to the city manager to review and then propose it to the city council. We had 2 official budget workshops in May where we were able to present to council the budget proposal, and today we have
as discussed, we're going to be adopting this tentatively. I have a few pieces of information that we'll cover. One is the property tax levy, which is an important step we take is to adopt this levy. We are proposing in this budget only to increase the levy based on new construction in the city. So the rate will actually be going down from the previous year as the assessed valuation is going up and our levy stays the same. So our rate will be going to 0.2423 for this next year. The city's portion of the total tax bill that residents receive is only 5%. So when you get your tax bill, you're paying the full bill. The city's portion on that is only 5%. And what that means is it's $24.23 per 100,000 of assessed value.
Say that again, Lars, please.
Yes, so $24.23 per 100,000 of assessed value. So our rate is 0.2423 for next year. It's going down from 0.2520 in the current year.
And what was the previous amount per 100,000 of assessed value?
That would be $25.20. And just a reminder, this revenue source is relatively small in the general fund. It covers 5% of our entire general revenue sources in the general fund. Because we're increasing only for the new construction that's built, there's no truth in taxation required. So our proposed total city budget is $278,613,343. That's an increase of 8% or 7.9 from the previous fiscal year. Because the city is under home rule, which means the voters have given us an alternative expenditure limit, the budget we adopt is our maximum expenditures, and therefore we budget for contingencies that may happen. So we've listed those out here. We covered this in detail during the workshop, but we do have contingencies for grants, the public safety tax. If the voters do approve this, we have contingencies in place to allow us to move forward with the operations and capital items that we've discussed. As well as there's a airport land protection contingency if anything moves forward on that item. Our operating budget's increasing 5.9%. The majority of that is from our increased personnel costs, which the budget includes a 5.2% cost of living increase for all city employees, and then additional 1% on top of that for performance evaluations.
Yeah, I do want to comment that 5.2% is based upon the Phoenix metro area CPI. And of course, anybody who's been following the increase in property values knows that the city of Prescott actually has about an 18% higher property cost relative to Phoenix. So even though that sounds like a pretty big number, and I think it is, it's just, again, a reflection of kind of national policies, and that's the most relevant CPI that we have adopted for staffing in the city. I also want to mention that the $1.748 million on public safety tax operations and the $8.393 on public safety tax capital is an example of how we have to include these possibilities in the budget if that public safety tax is in fact voted in, then we have to put that in as a contingency. Otherwise, if it isn't and the tax does pass, then we can't spend the money,
Correct.
right?
Exactly.
That also, we look at that airport land purchase. A lot of that, a very high percentage of that is subject to reimbursement from the FAA over a period of years. So that's not a actual net cost. It's a contingency that we have to include in the budget so that once that reimbursement occurs, we're able to accept it and apply it against that amount, correct?
Correct statements, yep.
Thank you. Councilwoman Furworth?
Thank you, Mayor. On that exact same line of thought you were just articulating, I noticed in the pre-reading package on page 384, it was talking about full-time equivalents. When we were originally discussing in workshop day 1, we talked about 577 employees. It's now up to 605.23, and I'm assuming that that increase of 28.23 was part of the contingency with the public safety tax operations, but I just wanted to double check that.
I'll cover the personnel on the next slide. Can I move to that slide?
Please.
Okay. So the additional positions that are included in this year's budget are 11 FTEs, increasing from the previous year. So we'll be going to 577 on our personnel roster. I'm not sure where the 600 came from. Oh, I see. I think
Page
I know what you mean.
384.
I think that is the official state form where we present our personnel, and that includes an estimate for temporary, not full-time permanent positions. So on that schedule, the state
That
requires us to.
explains the .23, which I was trying to figure out.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So we do make an estimate for the hours worked from temporary personnel on that schedule. But our official roster that you'll be adopting in the next meeting in 2 weeks is for 577.
Councilmember Rusing?
If I remember correctly, the increase in staffing isn't really actually an increase because we're kind of getting back up to where we were in 2005. And if you look at how much we've grown, I think that this is a very necessary increase in our staffing in order to perform our excellent level of service to the public.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. We presented at the workshop that we're getting back to our levels in 2008. The total FTE count was 574. So now with 577, we're just getting back to that where we were before the Great Recession started. On the board, on this slide, we're presenting the new positions that are in the budget. As I mentioned, there's 11. Some of these are new positions and some are temporary conversions. In other words, departments have hired on a temporary basis and realized this is a permanent need and then have come through the budget process to establish a permanent position for those. And from there, I just have a closing process unless there's any questions on the budget.
Well, just for those members of the public that are looking at the slides, when the reference to a GF there, that means these are grant-funded positions.
Actually, general fund.
That's even, well, grant-funded would probably be better. So that's coming out of the general fund.
Yeah, we wanted
where police and fire funding is occurring, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So under Public Works, you'll see that 0% is general fund, and then.
So Public Works not coming out of general fund, comes out of their enterprise funds?
Correct.
Okay.
And I have the numbers if you're interested on any of the breakdown on any of that cost.
Yeah, gee, if I would have read the top of that screen, I would have seen it. Okay, let's make sure I take a good look at the next slide.
Okay. All right. from here, I just wanted to introduce what the following steps are for final adoption. On the 25th of June, we will have the public hearings for the budget, where the council will hear from the public, and then at that same meeting, we'll adopt the budget. On the 25th, there's also a few other items council adopts. That's our official job roster. Per the charter, the council establishes the roster. And then we also have this approved expenditure list that council will finally adopt. We did review that during the workshop, and we'll be adopting that. The property tax levy per state law after the public hearing will be 2 weeks after that. So the first meeting in July, we'll adopt the property tax levy. That's all I had, unless there's any questions on the budget.
Councilwoman Furworth.
Thank you. I had a question on the property tax levy. I know you went through it, but I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what you said. You said in fiscal year 25, we will only do it against new construction, and I didn't understand what that means in relation to all the existing residents and what their tax levy will be. So could you go through that again for me?
Sure.
Thank you.
When new construction comes on board to the city, inside the city limits, that didn't exist on the assessed valuation we received in the previous year. So we get a report on new homes that have been built in the city and what that means for our tax levy. In other words, the rate we established last year, they apply that to the new construction that's being built, and that allows us to increase our levy by only that amount. So the existing residents, in other words, we keep the same levy, but because existing property values are going up, the rate actually decreases for existing residents.
So the new residents will get, new construction will get the 0.2520, and the existing residents will get the 2423. I'm just
Okay.
trying to be really clear.
We adopt it for everyone in the city, so the new rate will be 2423. The old rate was 2520. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm clear on what the rates are for the existing residents.
Okay. And I can come back with additional clarification if needed at the public hearing.
Motion.
Public comment.
Tony Hamer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to be clear that in terms of the budget for next year, we're putting in as a contingency an improved revenue source from a new tax here, and that will in fact go towards the capital required for the safety services. Is that a correct assumption that we make?
That is correct.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's all, Mayor.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 2024-1887.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I'm a yes, Sarah.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
A yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0. We're on item D, which is adoption and resolution adoption of resolution number 2024-1890, setting certain citywide fees and approving a citywide fee schedule for fiscal year 24-25.
It's me again. I think I forgot to introduce myself last time, so I'll do it now. Lars Johnson, Deputy Finance Director. This is the first time as a city we're adopting the fee schedule in this manner. With that, we've had a few hiccups, and so I'll explain. The resolution that was in your packet included a marked up version. It was confusing, and I hope that a fresh version was sent to you all and replace that. And then also I had one change I need to make to the Exhibit A. Before that, though, I'll just explain why we're doing this. This has been a best practice that's been identified from the Arizona League of Cities and Towns as a means of complying with state requirements when we increase fees. We have public notice requirements just to make sure that we're following those. It also makes it easier for administering the process, and it's more transparent for the public and the council. In this schedule, we list the fees across all the departments except for a few things that we handle in a different manner, and that's our development impact fees and our utility and solid waste rates. Those are handled through a different process and are not included on the schedule. The fees listed here are all, majority of them are not changing, but we're showing it all obviously as we're adopting the schedule in whole. The two changes that are happening are under the airport. They have a new program for credentialing with a new safety system. So they have fees when they're issuing credentials and replacing those. And then the library is increasing their interlibrary postal fee from $2 to $3. So the very minor changes here, but this is a new process. The change or the amendment that I'll have council include in the motion is community development had noticed one of their fees was incorrect in this process. So on page 3 of 9, subdivision exemption or exception per lot fee. It's towards the bottom there under the planning. The fee next year will actually be $115.44. I apologize for that. Okay.
What's that page again, Laura?
Page 3 of 9 on Exhibit A. The fee should be $115.44 for FY25. The subdivision exemption or exception per lot fee. It's showing $38.48.
How much?
Oh, sorry.
What's it increased to?
The fee for FY25 will be $115.44. The rest of the changes here are based on previously adopted resolutions by council to allow a CPI increase on certain fees. So that's where we've indicated the increases as such. And with that, I'll be available for any comments or questions.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Lars, for everybody's sake, can you explain how these will be? Is there a policy? Are these? I'm just assuming these are adjusted yearly or not adjusted at all, or is it based on some other component?
That's a great question. Our goal is that the departments would evaluate their cost of delivering services during the budget process. So we've aligned this into the budget process so that departments can submit fee changes to the finance department, and we would compile those and bring them to council. So there isn't a set program per se. it's more up to departments if they feel that the fees are too low. They can evaluate, give us some justification of the costs, and then we would bring that forward through the city manager to you.
So it could be random, or are we just doing this during the budget process?
Our goal is that we would do it once a year, but I think there's been a few departments that will be coming to you and if in the near future that have discussed with me that they missed this process.
Okay.
So in the future, we're going to try to do it once a year.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rusing.
Yes, I'd like to make the point, Lars, that we have 9 pages of fees, and like 3 of them are at the airport, and these are fees that are being instituted for airport security, control cards to make sure that we keep our airport safe. And then there was one other fee, so out of 9 pages of fees, there's like 4 that are going up.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make that perfectly clear that we're not approving 9 pages of increases. It's just a couple of increases.
Just to clarify, there's a few fees that are new, and that's what I've called out here.
Yeah.
Some of the fees have previously established CPI increases, so those are cost.
Yeah.
The index, consumer price index. I had to think of the definition, which basically is a calculation of what our costs are going up on a general basis. So we've applied that based on those previous resolutions to those fees.
So Lars, I think in the spirit of transparency, I think this is a great thing. And this will be on the website, our city website?
Yeah, good question. Now, under the city's budget page where we post all of our other budget documents, we'll create a new tab or a new section for the fee schedule.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Are you complete, Lars?
Yes, I'm here.
Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not, Mayor.
In that case, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt Resolution 2024-1890.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I'm a yes, Sarah.
Thank you.
I'm
Try
a
to-
yes.
Let me try to reset the vote. Give me just 1 minute.
Aye.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fruworth,
Yes.
Councilman Gambogi,
Bagus.
Councilman Montoya,
Very much yes.
and Councilmember Rusing.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
All right, we'll move on to item 11E.
Approval of City Contract Number 2023-068A16, an amendment to City Contract Number 2023-068 with Ridgeline Builders LLC for first and third floor improvements at 201 North Montezuma Street, New City Hall.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Tim Legler, Deputy Director, Recreation Services. So the item you have before you is nothing new as regards to this building. As you know, we purchased the building in 2021. So with that, we've been working multi-phases. This is the 5th and final phase of construction, which will consist of the first floor completion. And what that's going to do is move the chambers down, create office space for community development and utility billing. And then it's going to redo the 3rd floor, this space, changing it up to allow for the legal department expansion and some movement to put departments together that are currently separated. So with that, we used the City of Prescott job order contracting. We also got a bid using the 1 GPA. And on the 1 GPA, came out to be 2.3% higher than the city job order contracting. And I just want to point out that 2.3% higher is a fee that we would pay for using 1 GPA. So we present it before you using the city job order contracting. And I just want to kind of talk about some of that cost. So second floor, as you know, is complete with the fire department moved in there. That cost per square foot was about $188. The first floor bid is $197 per square foot, which is a 5% increase. The national average on building construction per square foot right now is anywhere from $240 to $440, depending on what it is. Some of the factors in this is with the first floor, we're closing up the drive-through, so there's brickwork to be done. There's work on the drive-through to be done. There's temp fencing that's going to be involved. We're trying to have very little impact to the public coming into the building, so we're going to be building some temp walls to close off so that people aren't just walking into a construction zone, but still make it inviting to the public that are coming. There's also security measures, as you know, with moving the dais and stuff downstairs. And then there's custom millwork and video and audio work to help improve and then move this equipment down there. We've done many projects with Ridgeline, and we feel that the relationship with them will make this a successful project in a tight time frame. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
If you have any questions, if not, we do have one public comment card, Mayor, if you'd like to take that.
They're talking about it's popping up on their screen to vote again.
Oh. No, I got the last one, so you can just ignore that. There must be a delay. Sorry about that.
Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I was just wondering if there's any representatives from Ridgeline here.
Yes, there are. Both of them are right back here, and they're happy to answer any questions you have too.
Oh, thank you. If they would like to approach the podium.
And this is Dave with Ridgeline Builders.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Hello there. I was just curious. I'm not familiar with Ridgeline Builders. I was wondering if you could just give us a little rundown about your history and prior projects.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Our firm was established in 2003 here in Prescott. So over the last few decades, we've been involved in many commercial and residential projects here in town. We are deeply connected to this community, both personally and professionally.
Can you get a little closer to that microphone? I'm sorry. Can you get your
Be a
screwdriver out and move it closer to you?
How's this? Also, we are deeply connected to this community, both personally and professionally. We live here and pay taxes here, and our kids go to school here. We've been involved in the many highs and lows with the city over the last few decades, and as a result, we feel like this is our town, and what happens here matters to us. And as a result, any contracts that we get from the city, we take very seriously, and we conduct with the highest integrity. I stand behind our performance and our reputation, and we look forward to working with the city now and in the future, and it's an honor for us to have these contracts.
And I, just looking at the material, you use all local subs?
Absolutely. We're local. We use local subcontractors.
Okay, that's very important.
It is, yes.
Okay,
It's important to
ready.
us, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns from the council? We have public comment.
We do, Mayor. Tony Hammer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The new City Hall, I originally believe we purchased it for $7.5 million. Then there was an assurance given by Council that we wouldn't go past $10 million in terms of the overall expenditure. Could I ask for staff or Council to give us an accounting of where we stand on the cost of new City Hall, please?
So I can answer that, and I also have Lars here, but he sent me this earlier. So the total as of June 30th, 2024, the total estimated cost is $14.7 million.
Right. Seems like we've exceeded where we started. We've exceeded our best estimates, and we're still not finished. Thank you.
That's all,
Councilman
Mayor.
Montoya.
Thank you, Mayor. Tim, I have a question. I don't know if you can answer this, or maybe Joe can, or maybe even the Ridgeline gentleman who was up early can answer this. Could we build this building today for $14.7 million?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
Councilmember Rusin.
I just wanted to comment that the public needs to realize that this building was still occupied when we purchased it. So we've had to move in phases to do the tenant improvements, and that added to the cost. And for example, moving we needed a place for City Hall and City Chambers, so we're up here. Now we're going to move down to the first floor. But all in all, when it's finished, it'll be a wonderful investment for the community, and this building will still be very productive, I assume, 100 years from now.
Well, that'd be nice if it lasted 100 years.
Yes, it would.
The last City Hall lasted 62, I believe. But maybe that was that new modern architecture with the flat roofs. Councilman Gambogi.
May I make a motion?
You can.
I move to approve city contract number 2023-068A16.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0. All right, item F, presentation and discussion regarding the approval and adoption of the Prescott City Council strategic plan.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Tyler Goodman, Deputy City Manager, here to present to you your strategic plan. Just to give a little background to those who may not be familiar, the Council met this past February to go through this plan and to create the goals that are found in it. And at the time, there were certain dates and timeframes that were left blank, with the instructions that staff go back, work with Managing Results, the consulting firm that we used for this strategic plan, and that we use our best data, information, and forethought to fill in those blanks, so to speak. So as we go through this, we'll show you what those are, the by-whens, the certain goals will be achieved. There were also two decently large, I guess, recommendations for change in language for the goals, which I'll touch on specifically, but otherwise it's the goal as you created in February with the information I spoke to. So diving in, the first section is public safety, and it touches on that the community will experience improved emergency services as evidenced by a few things. The first is that by fiscal year, and we went by fiscal year because that's how we track budgets, performance measurements. We wanted to create that alignment. So we also align this with fiscal years. The community will experience 2 new strategically located fire stations. By fiscal year 29, 90% of response times will be at or below 8 minutes. And by fiscal year 29, the community will have the ability to successfully contact 911 through their cellular or mobile device throughout the city, anywhere in the city. So those were untouched except for filling in the blanks of the fiscal years from your session in February. Continuing with public safety, by FY28, the community will experience a feeling of safety through the presence of police officers and increased capacity to respond by several things: full staffing at the police department, proactive community policing in downtown, and increased traffic enforcement. And then this bullet point on the bottom is a goal that was amended by airport staff as they met with managing results. So if I could, I'll touch on the language that council presented in February, talk to this language and why the proposed change, and happy to take any questions or feedback at that point from council. But in February, the language that council created was that the community will experience a sense of personal and economic safety through safe flight operations and the ability to fight and suppress wildland fires from the Prescott Regional Airport. What the airport staff proposed was that by fiscal year 31, the community will experience infrastructure improvements that will allow for unconstrained operations of commercial carriers and other airport tenants. What this speaks to in plain language is the runway extension and runway strengthening to continue safe flight operations for both commercial and general aviation, as well as firefighting suppression efforts. So they wanted to tie it with that because we can easily track steps as we move through that process, goals, outcomes, timeframes. It's much more trackable and doable from the staff side, looking at it from that angle. But happy to take any feedback or comments on that if there are any.
And I think we would add that with the expected improvements in our airport facilities, runway extension, et cetera, that we should be in a position by then to no longer need the essential air service subsidies, because it's pretty clear that the Congress wants to move in that direction. So it's important that we be able to maintain our commercial carrier service and that we make the investment in expanding some of these facilities and the runway so that we'll be prepared to continue commercial air service should that actually occur. Councilwoman Furworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Tyler, my feeling, I understand what you did. I just have some suggestions on the wording, because the whole point of this section was public safety, and that was feeling that people would feel that their homes or their businesses were going to be well protected should there be a wildland fire hitting this town, that we had the infrastructure to pull it off. So I totally understand what you said, but I think we've lost that sense of the community will experience a sense of personal and economic safety or resilience, whatever the right word is. But I like everything else you had there. And I would also suggest not just unconstrained operations of commercial carriers, but you also bring up our fire, I forget the agency, but I would name them so people understand what we're trying to accomplish with a lengthened runway as they fly out full tankers. So that's my only twist to bring back the original intention.
And we certainly could. With council's direction, we could bring back language referencing a sense of personal and economic safety through infrastructure improvements that will allow, on and on and on. We could name U.S. Forest Service specifically, or we could just say firefighting efforts specifically to leave it more generic. But it's again, council's language. Happy to take that direction.
Well, I know we've been watching those slurry bombers taking off from the airport over the last week or so to fight fires that are fortunately not close by, but nevertheless our airport is considered the firefighting hub for northern Arizona. Well, I'm fine with it. If we want to try to keep it in a generally focused concept without getting into too much detail, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So we will be adding the language that I spoke to earlier. By FY31, the community will experience a sense of personal and economic safety and infrastructure improvements that will allow for unconstrained operations of commercial carriers, other airport tenants, and firefighting. Help me out on that last one if that's good enough.
Firefighting response.
Firefighting response, fire suppression response.
Capabilities.
Okay.
That's good.
Capabilities. All right.
Could we say the community will experience that sense through infrastructure improvements?
Absolutely. All right. Are we good there? I think we'll go on to the next if we're ready. All right. So shifting over to the dynamic economic environment group here. The first one is that by fiscal year 26, the city will be proactively identifying and attracting new business. This is through the Economic Development Strategic Plan, which is already underway. The next one is that by fiscal year 26, the city will be proactively identifying and attracting new commercial development in the northern part of the community, so North Prescott. And finally, by fiscal year 28, the annual direct spending from tourism will grow from $252 million to $288 million. The change there in the language, council created that in that last bullet point, that it would be the annual economic impact. The reason that staff is suggesting it go to direct spending is because that is what the Arizona Office of Tourism tracks and compares benchmark-wise, community to community throughout the state. So it helps us align with that so we can compare better to other communities.
And to establish a measurable benchmark, especially when the state agency will be monitoring and reporting those numbers so that we can monitor our progress towards that specific goal.
Absolutely. It helps with tracking for sure.
Councilmember Rusing?
I think the word to match the residential development's a little awkward. I think a better concept would be to say to serve or provide services or meet the needs instead of to match. Just an idea there.
We're happy to change it to serve.
Yeah, to serve.
Okay. All right, we will make that change. Continuing on with this section, the community will experience full-service regional airport that provides reliable, sustained commercial air service as evidenced by three things. That first, by fiscal year 26, the Economic Development Strategic Plan would speak specifically about the airport area and how to attract new business, high-paying wages, and commerce in and around the airport. By FY28, 2 new aviation-related businesses will be located near the Prescott Regional Airport. And then by fiscal year 29, the annual economic impact of the Prescott Regional Airport will grow from what is estimated today at $162 million to $186 million. And that's with some inputs with higher leases, more uses at the airport, more business around the airport, part of the Economic Development Strategic Plan. Those were all factored into creating that estimated increase.
And how do we actually calculate that economic impact?
It is done. We've used Elliott D. Pollock, an economic firm out of the Valley, who has done it for us. They did it back in 2018. They recently did an update for us, which is where we got the 162. It has to do with operations. It has to do with business around the airport. They take direct, indirect, and induced economic impact. A lot of variables, but they rounded it out to that number of 162 million.
Councilwoman Furworth?
So what you just said changed it for me in terms of words, because it wasn't just the Prescott Regional Airport. You're talking about the airport region or the airport area, because you're including businesses around that circle around. So if we could just specify that, because it's not just going to be the airport that's going to drive this huge increase.
More the airport area. We could refer to
Perfect.
it as.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Okay, moving on to the next one.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Tyler, real quickly, back there on the tourism slide, do you, when you're calculating that increase, and I'm just asking this because we've got so many more attractions upcoming, and, well, for example, that Bean Peak, do you factor some of the new tourism in that, or how is that calculated?
Yes, tourism staff estimated a 5% annual growth. It's a lot of our efforts to do midweek conferences and gatherings in town, filling in the shoulder season of events, It's also marketing, targeted marketing towards those spenders, consumers, tourists that are willing to stay longer and perhaps spend a little more. So there's already efforts that staff is doing to generate more tourism, and they felt that this is an attainable goal, but also is a stretching goal, if that makes sense. So all of those elements were in it.
Okay, thank you. That sounds good.
All right, moving on to infrastructure. The community will experience the safe, efficient flow of traffic and transportation through the city, as evidenced by three things there. By FY26, there will be a reduction in traffic injuries and fatalities. By FY27, there will be a reduction in traffic congestion. And by FY28, there will be a reduction in pedestrian injuries and fatalities. Completely unchanged from what council proposed. We simply put in the by when from the staff side. Continuing on with infrastructure.
Councilwoman Furworth.
Thank you, Mayor. One question about this. I would hope that by fiscal year 26, with some of the things I know we voted in some recent sessions on, et cetera, that there would be a reduction. But I would hope this would turn into a metric that would be part of our semi-annual reporting, so we can let the public know whether we're trending up or trending down and what we're going to do, because we may have to vote more things or do more things. So some of these metrics for me, when I was reading it, I was like, reduction is one thing, like a goal eventually, what's reasonable for the age of our town. I think we'll figure that out and find our way there over time. So I'm cool with the word reduction for now, but I do think understanding what we're trying to get to. I think people have a lot of thoughts in this town. They want it to be like the good old days. When there maybe was, 1, 2, 3 accidents or whatever. I just think we do need to set goals at some point in these areas so people understand the kind of roads that we have, the space limitations, where are we trying to get to? It will definitely be safer, but is it going to be like a country road? Probably never. Thanks.
That's a very good point, and I think that as staff is tracking these and brings performance metrics to council, at least biannually, if not more frequently in writing or updates, it can create more robust discussion about, okay, now what does it mean? And what is a good percentage decrease, for example? Those types of conversations can definitely come. So continuing on with the infrastructure, beginning in fiscal year 24, basically right now, in alignment with the Long-Range Regional Transportation Plan and working with SIMPO, ADOT, and others, the city will champion the development of a regional network to include the highway system and regional roadways. By fiscal year 28, through the development of a long-term water management plan, which we have spoken to council about previously, it'll focus on really all the elements of our water resources in the city. It does take a lot of time to get that, as you've seen with water policy. It's not simple, it's not fast. So we felt that this is a realistic, attainable goal as we start to work on that now, basically. And then finally, by fiscal year 28, aligning the Workforce Housing Committee, the general plan, and the housing needs assessment, that the city can facilitate a continuum of housing options. We know there's no silver bullet, but we want to make great strides over the next few fiscal years to really see something created that will allow for some relief in the housing element.
Councilmember Rusing.
I'd like to just throw out a comment. The community will experience safe potable water within the water service area boundary. How about the city will provide safe potable water instead of a community will experience? Just say the city will provide safe potable water. That's just a comment.
Just as a reference back to our consultants for managing results, you'll notice that theme throughout this. They really ask council to focus on not what the city would do, but what the citizens would experience. So you'll notice that language quite a bit through the plan. Again, up to council, it's your strategic plan, but that is found pretty commonly throughout what
Okay.
they will experience.
All right, never
I like
mind.
that language.
Never mind.
So we'll continue on with preserving and protecting the natural environment. There's two elements here. Beginning in fiscal year 25, through regional cooperation and partnership and enforcing the 25% open space requirement, the community will experience increased trail connectivity, outdoor recreation opportunities, and meaningful wildlife corridors. And then by fiscal year 28, through regional cooperation and partnerships, and a comprehensive risk assessment to look at strategic mitigation responses and recoveries, the Prescott community will experience increased resiliency in planning for and dealing with recovering from disasters. We took out the word natural because there could be man-made disasters, unfortunately, right? So that's the language we have there. And last but not least, good governance. There's three elements here: that the city is committed to being a community-focused and performance-driven organization. Beginning in fiscal year 25, the community will receive updates on progress towards the achievement of the strategic plan every 6 months. By fiscal year 27, the community will receive updated performance information and trends about results at the department level. And then finally, to ensure fiscal transparency and accountability, by fiscal year 27, the city's budget will be tied to results, outcome-based budgeting, essentially, performance metrics and results. And that concludes the review of your strategic plan, but happy to take any other questions or feedback.
Councilwoman Furworth.
Thank you, Mayor. So I love this in terms of I'd love to call this the 5-year strategic plan or the 24 to 29-year strategic plan, just versus to change the language from what we used to train the public on, that there was 1-year strategic plans. So that's the first thing, if you wouldn't mind considering that input. But the next thing for me is kind of how do we envision introducing this and communicating this to the public, and then will the first 6-month review happen in December or January?
I don't know. I haven't thought that far as December or January. I think either one. January, yeah, perfect. January sounds good. So we'll do that. But as far as communicating it, sharing it, we can certainly do as council wishes. If that's public information, if it's a release, we do post this once it's finalized, and we pretty it up, so to speak, give some background to it. We do post it to the website, so it's available for the public. But if there's certain outreach, we're happy to help with that so that the public is more aware that this exists.
Councilmember Rusing.
I'm very pleased with this outcome. I just would like to remind everyone that this is the first plan. We tried something new. We used a consulting company out of Colorado, and it was the process was like day and night compared to what we used to do. So I just want to let the public know that we've made some improvements in the process, and that we're just working towards our goal of providing a wonderful quality of life for the community of Prescott. Thank you.
Councilman Gambogi.
Having spent a lot of time in communist countries, I'd like to beg to differ with Councilwoman Furworth in calling it a 5-year plan, because all communist countries have 5-year plans.
Should we call it a 4.5-year plan?
Could we just then call it the 24 to 29 strategic plan?
You can call it anything you want, just don't call it a 5-year plan.
Mayor Pro Tem Ken Telmy.
Thank you, Mayor. Tyler, with the turnover in government as we have now with the council members potentially every 2 years, I think the strategic plan is a roadmap, the one consistency in the city, if you will, and it provides an outlook for the new people coming in to kind of see the direction that we are going in. And I hope we keep this up. I do think that maybe once this is done, you might want to have John Heine put out a little press release for those that are interested to see the direction that the council is thinking. And then, of course, it's up to the staff to, the way we like it here, we're just going to give you orders. So now you've got your marching orders.
We
Thank
like
you.
marching orders. It
We
helps.
will help,
Yes,
though.
thank you.
Most of us will. I'm not sure about Ted. He's got a bum knee, but the rest of us will help you. Thanks.
All right, very good. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do, Mayor. Tony Hamer.
Tony Hamer, thank you for giving me a chance to speak here. Alleluia. We're actually getting something started. Everything starts with a decent plan. Even the communists knew that. You have actually put together a professional and potentially quite hardy strategic plan. I think you should be praised and recognized for that. Okay, it's been a little bit slow coming forward, 4 months of looking at stuff and what have you, but you've got a plan. I urge you to raise the communication of the plan. Let everybody know in the community this is what's most important. And it was said earlier in the session today, succeed like that. You've got to take the strategic plan on and let it determine what your portfolio of investments will be in this city. So I really praise you in terms of this. I think that we've got a new start. The previous 5 years of rubbish in terms of strategic plans, let's put that behind us and let's go and make this thing happen and ensure that our taxpayers get a decent return on their investment in this city. Thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
Well, Tyler, I think you have your direction. Taking a vote on this?
We still need to make a motion.
Please.
I move to approve and adopt the Prescott City Council strategic plan with the suggestions that have been made during the presentation.
Second.
Second, please vote.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
Item 11G.
Continued item, discussion and possible action regarding approval or denial of the water budget rollover in accordance with the amended 2022 water management policy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Brian Reese, a Water Resource Manager for City of Prescott. So today, yes, I don't really have a presentation, but it's we have an item that we were discussing on the May 28th meeting pertaining to the possible rollover of a previous budget period. Due to the length of that meeting, it was decided to push that item over to the meeting today. Since then, however, we did have our water issues subcommittee meeting, and based on our water policy, every June in that meeting, we do set or make recommendation to set the water budget for the next upcoming 6-month budget period. So during the water issues subcommittee meeting, the subcommittee members were given all the data and information about what was spent in the last 6 months, projections that were going to be spent in the previous 6 months, and also we went over the procedures that are now available through our amended 2022 policy, which allows for some rollover from the previous 6-month period. So at that meeting, they actually did have recommendations for you for the next budget period. However, due to the fact that the June 4th meeting and this June 11th meeting, there's not enough time for me to set an agenda to have that heard today. And we had to hear this item because it was voted to move to this meeting. So that's why we as staff are recommending to deny the rollover as shown on this memo period. And then on the June 25th meeting, we will come back and we will bring you the recommendations that were put together at the Water Issue Subcommittee on June 4th.
Well, let me start by saying that the responsibility for determining the acre feet in each category, whether it's residential or non-residential, the rollover periods of time, how much is rolled over, whether the two categories are fungible by meaning can you take some excess water in one category and utilize it in another category, and also the concerns that were expressed in that Water Issues Subcommittee about the impact sometimes of appeals for large projects and how they end up not counting against the water budget portfolio. All these issues are really within the purview and responsibility of the Water Policy Monitoring and Implementation Committee. That's where it should start, and that's where the recommendations should be brought forward. The Water Issues Subcommittee is simply there to apply the policy as it exists for water service agreements. So I think the deliberations and the recommendations that came out of that last meeting are inappropriate. It should come from the Water Policy Implementation and Management Committee. We have both the chairman and the vice chairman present today to speak to that policy. And quite frankly, I was a little disappointed that that committee had not advanced far enough to bring the recommendations to the council for adoption, because we're up against this rollover period. But nevertheless, that's where the responsibility lies, and that's where that committee needs to make their recommendations, bring those forward, and then allow the committee, allow the council to make the decisions on adopting or amending that policy, and then allowing the Water Issues Subcommittee to apply the policy to water service agreements. I'd like to hear from the chairman or the vice chairman of the Water Policy Implementation and Management Committee.
Hi, guys. Talk about post-traumatic stress syndrome. It's good to see y'all. You know, one of the things that I get a concern over
This is Jim. For the record, Jim, we've got people watching online, so
my name is
you can
Jim
introduce
Lamerson,
yourself. Thanks.
former city councilman, chairman of the Water Issues Subcommittee, appointed by the mayor. It's the mayor's water
Not the
committee.
subcommittee, the Water Policy Implementation
right.
and Management.
Right, but it's made up, that commission is made, or committee is made up by members of different segments of the community, and we make recommendations via the mayor to the council. It's the mayor's appointed committee. If I'm saying anything incorrect, Phil, you're more than welcome to step in. But the fact of the matter is, it's the mayor's committee appointed by the mayor. Each member of that committee was approved by you folks as a body as a whole. And our primary interest is in making recommendations to the mayor as to what's in the best interest of the entire community with regards to monitoring our water use, budgeting our water use, the quality of the water, and various issues like this. And these are the types of things we discuss at that commission. And some of the issues that we came up with that I thought was critically important was establishing a water budget for every year. The fact of the matter is you need to know where you're going and how much you anticipate building or committing to. And there's a difference between what you're willing to commit to from a consumption perspective for both commercial and residential. And they're not the same. The use is not the same simply because real estate may be a rental unit doesn't necessarily mean it's commercial. It may be commercial in a tax purpose, but it's not commercial in its implications. So that's, in my humbled opinion, we forwarded some pretty good recommendations through the mayor that came to you guys, and I think we did a good job. I think we continue to do a good job. But one of the things that concerned me is to have certain things being forwarded without the commission's or the committee's input for some development projects as to what's in the best interest of the community for using our water. Now, I really think that we make recommendations to the mayor to bring to you folks. That's our job. And the mayor's been very active in attending those meetings and keeping us on track as to what our role is. So there you go, Mayor. You heard from me.
So when is your committee planning on reconvening to?
We were put in abeyance, and I don't know why, but we were. And we haven't met for a while because we were told we weren't going to meet for a while.
Well, since these issues are now coming to the consideration of our development community, it's time for that committee to get back on track and start deliberating these issues and bringing those recommendations forward.
We're here at your service, Mayor. So if we're instructed to meet again, I'm sure city staff is listening and will reconvene.
Well, then let's schedule that. City Clerk, can we get that back on the calendar?
We can, Mayor, and per your direction, there's also going to be a resolution coming forward to the balance of council at the next meeting to actually dissolve the mayoral ad hoc and establish this group as a standing committee and set some specific parameters on what they should be reviewing, not reviewing, and what kinds of recommendations they'll be making to council moving forward. And so then at that point, we would open up recruitment, as is our usual process, and get members in there and then go forward with convening them again after we've established that group as a whole.
So I think the current committee probably should review some of the rollover and quantity considerations that really need to be decided on. And then we'll move forward to a creation of a standing committee after that.
We can put together an agenda for the mayor's ad hoc committee on water policy to kind of look at some of the language. So just the language established for the rollover was actually part of the recommendations that were approved on the March 26th amended water policy. So if there's some questions or on the definitions or the how that was supposed to be established, we could go over that with the committee so we can get some definitions and some clarity on how the rollover should take place.
That's fine with me. I just need a date and a time.
Sure. We'll get that to you.
I was asked by the mayor to chair the committee to get some things started because of my longevity and involvement with the Water Issues Committee. So, fact of the matter is, we're here at not only the mayor's service, but the communities, and that's what we're here for. So,
Deal.
any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, so what are we deciding on today?
I have a comment.
Yes, so it would just, we're looking for a recommendation to deny the rollover that was going to be discussed at the May 28th meeting. And then on the June 25th meeting, we'll bring you the recommendations from the June 4th WIS meeting.
Yeah, that still allows us time to be able to establish those numbers when they go into effect July 1.
Correct.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to deny.
Comment?
We do not have any public comment on this one, Mayor.
Sorry, Mayor.
Okay. I have to put my glasses on. I move to deny placing the July 1, 2023 to December 31st, 2023 unallocated volume, residential, non-residential, or both, and rolling it into the January 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2024 water budget for use. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, the vote for yes would be to deny.
Correct.
Correct. All right.
Councilwoman Fruworth? Thank you. Passes 5-1.
All right, I'm going to conclude this meeting with a quote from one of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. A nation of well-informed citizens who have been taught to know and prize the rights which God has given them cannot be enslaved. It's in the region of ignorance that tyranny begins. This meeting is adjourned.